Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. So this here is the building stage of my new grow box that I'm going to make. I'm up at my parents' here because they've got a lot more materials and wood. Now, because I've spent a lot of money already on the grow lights and also on some of the other equipment like the fan and the electronics for the grow box, I don't really have any money left for the actual materials. So what I'm going to be using is this old table tennis table. This table tennis table, as you can see, it's really old. It's probably about 60-70 years old. It's from an old community centre, I think you can see. Just basically homemade, so it's but it's got decent plywood, and it's the plywood I'm going to be using for the sides of my grow box. So it's pretty much the right dimensions actually. It's only about 20 centimetres that needs cutting off. So I'll be cutting that off with a circular saw just to make it a nice clean cut. Cutting these down to size. I might retain some of these structural beams because it is very thin plywood. You can see there it's probably only about half a centimetre, so 5 mil in diameter, which is particularly thin and flimsy, so I will have to have some supports. As I say, it does have some supports on it already. The edge ones I'll probably take off because I'll need the space, but I'll certainly keep some of the support or maybe even add some extra myself. So I'll go ahead now. I'll cut these off. These will be the two sides. So one side will be like the door, the other side will be the back of the grow box. Then I'll need to do the top, the bottom, and the two sides. I haven't got the materials yet for that, but certainly this table tennis or ping pong table will do quite a good job for the two other sides. So it's been about 3 months since I think I last did an update on this. Unfortunately, I've been quite busy, and I've been quite a short of time, so I haven't been able to film every single aspect of making this grow box. But as you can see, I've lined the majority of it now. It's just lined with insulated bubble wrap. The reason for that is I want it to be nice and shiny, so that any light that doesn't hit the plant gets reflected around the grow box and then goes back into the plant. That way I don't have to have such powerful grow lamps, and it's just going to save me electricity costs. The other reason is I want to keep it quite well insulated so it can get quite warm. The flat's too cold at the moment, so I need to have something that's kind of warm for the plants to stay in. So this insulation will help keep this warm, but I will have some kind of ventilation system in here to make sure it doesn't get too hot, and I have thermometers and things like that to make sure that the temperature is controlled. So you go around the side, you can see it's quite rough. As I said before, the back and the front are actually made out of an old ping pong table, but the sides didn't have any more of this ping pong table with the plywood there, so I've just used some old offcuts here, planks for the sides. You can see this is the front, this is the door, and this will be the top. There'll be a lid for the whole thing. So I've got a door in here, haven't got a handle on there yet, but you can see I've got it hinged and that opens up. So the next stage will be mounting this front onto here, making sure it's lined with silver foil on this side as well, putting on the roof, and then I'll be fitting all the electronics and things like that for the grow lamps and the thermometer, ventilation system, and all of the things that need to go inside it. So this is now the overall structure finished. As you can see, that's the front side. Take it around the back, although the back won't be seen, so that'll be completely out of sight. The top I was starting to run out of time, so I had to rush the top. Unfortunately, it's not flush, but it's sealed off with this insulation bubble wrap, so it's pretty airtight, but I don't want it to be 100% airtight anyway because of the need for ventilation, and I will be putting a ventilation system in. So this is the front. I've got a simple latch door just here. A bit difficult with one hand, but there we are. Just latches on like that, holds it shut. I might put some neodymium magnets at the bottom just to make sure that it sticks shut with a magnet or something. I've also gone ahead and put in some hinges for it over here to make the door, but I also put on a shell handle. I mean, I was just going to put on a piece of wood, just like a small block of wood, something like a bit of wood at the end of that there, but I thought as I'm by the seaside, I might as well use a shell, make it a bit more interesting. So this is the inside. You can see it's fully lined, and the door as well. All around the inside is completely silver foiled bubble wrap for insulation and also to reflect the light. So that should do quite nice. All I need to do now is to fit up in the top here. I have to fit in some grow lights and some attachments for possibly some future grow lights. And then finally, I've also got my thermometer, which I've got here. That's going to be mounted on the inside around about there, so you can see the temperature without having to open the door. and let all the heat out. So I'm probably going to cut a hole, put that in there. Probably won't bother putting a bit of glass in front of it. I'll probably just have this in front because all the sensors for this are at the back, and as long as it's within a couple of degrees, I'm not too bothered about the reliability of the thermometer. But as long as it's about 2 or 3 degrees reliable, then I'm fine with this bit at the front of that. So go ahead now, get that sorted. I'll show you guys what it looks like once it's all kind of hooked up. So the grow box is now almost complete. You can see here it's now in my flat. And I'll show you all the different features that I was kind of showing before, and that now they're all installed, you'll be able to see where they are. So starting on the left here, you can see the electrics. It's basically just got an extension cable, and I put in plenty of electrics. This is basically for the grow lights, the ventilation system. I've also got a timer switch so I can change the period of time that the lights are on and off. I'll probably be changing this system though, it's not completely set. At the moment this is only for one light. I'm going to change it so I can get time control on more of the lights. Up here you can see I've got the LED drivers for the grow lamps. There's another one just on the top further back there. I've also got this ventilation system here, which is actually a laptop cooler. I chose this because it's the cheapest way I could find a thermostatically controlled fan. So this one I can basically kind of set a temperature and it'll change the fan speed up or down depending whether it's warm or cold. So that way I can control the temperature quite nicely with that. And that draws the air out, and then the air comes in for any of the cracks that are in the body of this, and there's a few cracks, so should be enough airflow into it. But I don't want to have too much airflow, I just like to keep it quite warm. So coming up to the front of it here, you can see that I've got my thermostat here and my hydrometer as well. So I know the humidity of the box and also the temperature. At the moment the humidity is getting a little bit too low, so I think what I might have to do is seal it up a little bit more. I think the problem is there's quite a draft, and with the warmth from the lights the air's getting very dry. Also there's not a lot of plants in there at the moment, so the humidity is a bit low, so I'm probably going to reduce the amount of ventilation, seal up this door, because this door needs to be fixed properly. It doesn't really close very well. At the moment, as I said before, it has this latch on it, but until I get my neodymium magnets, it's not going to be properly sealed. It's going to be kind of hanging open like that. So inside the grow box, there's been a few changes since you saw that bit when I was still building it. The main changes are I put the lights in now, so you can see there's a big grow panel up here. That's 50 watt rated LEDs driven at 25 watt power consumption. Exact same on the top left there. And then in the middle here I've mounted a fan. This is the small USB fan. I did a bit of testing, and these are supposed to be mounted probably about 15 centimeters or so away from a surface. So they were getting quite warm. They were getting about 30 or 40 degrees. That's a bit warm for the LEDs. Not any kind of risk of fire or anything, but at that temperature the LEDs would probably not have a very long lifespan, and it's not going to be very good for the LEDs. I'd probably have to replace them after a year or so. But after installing this fan, I've actually noticed the temperature is pretty much about 20 degrees, which is pretty much the same temperature as inside the box. I've actually got a temperature probe. That's probably what you can see flashing red just then. The temperature probe, I just kind of put it around the grow box, and I've been doing lots and lots of tests, and this way I can tell what temperature all the different areas are. So if there's any hot patches or cold patches, I can tell and kind of mediate that. So they were the hottest points. As I said, they got up to about 40 degrees, but now they're not going above the mid-20s, so that's really worked well, putting in the fan. The fan itself, I had originally wanted to place it in the middle, but there's a bit of a gap between the silver foil and the wood, so I couldn't mount it in the middle. There is actually a piece of wood, I think around about here, and a piece of wood on the left I could mount it on. I had originally mounted it on the right one, but the USB cable was too short, so I moved it to the left. And the idea of this fan is the air actually comes up, it blows the air up, it then comes and hits the roof. Once it hits the roof, it comes across and over the back of the two LED panels, and then the air is then pushed down the side of the box, either coming down this side or the other side. Hopefully then it will recycle around again. So it'll be like there should be two basic kind of circles going like this with the air on either side with this kind of setup. And of course I've got the extractor fan up there on the left hand side, which I can adjust the temperature and the speed so that I can take out any of the excess. So coming down, there's a few things I need to modify. I've got a few pepper plants and tomato plants here at the moment. I think I've done a previous update on them. But they can take quite a lot of plants in here, which is quite good. There's a decent amount of space. The only thing I really need to do now is I need to get I've got another lamp coming, which is going to be kind of fixed up somewhere in the middle here because there's space for it there. Obviously I've got to be careful because there's this cable coming down, but I'm going to fit up a much more powerful light. That's going to be a CFL lamp, so a compact fluorescent lamp, and that's just going to provide a different type of light and a much higher intensity light than these two bulbs, these two LED panels. So as for the fan, I'm happy with that. I don't think I need to put any more fans in. Also, having a bit of airflow is good for the plants because when it comes to when they're transpiring, especially if there's a very strong light intensity, they need to be able to get rid of their oxygen quite quickly and the carbon dioxide quite quickly if you want to get maximum growth. If they're just sitting with a stagnant air, what happens is you get a just like a few millimeters or even less, probably just a few atoms around the leaf where it breathes from. You just got stagnant air, and that air will just be saturated with oxygen. Because the plant is producing oxygen, taking the carbon dioxide. So a bit of an airflow just helps to keep that air circulated and keep more carbon dioxide coming into the leaves. It's not a problem in the wild, and it's not a problem in the house normally because you've got high CO2 levels in a house. But when it's in a box like this with slightly less air than your average house, and when it's completely stagnant under very bright lights, it can reduce the plant growth, but with the fan that will help. You can see actually the new growth is very glossy on the new pepper plants as opposed to some of the older growth. So it certainly seems to be helping the plants grow, this box. So as I say, I'm going to upgrade the lighting system, get more intense light because these LEDs are a little bit weak at the moment. The other thing is to fix the door. So I'm going to, as I say, I've ordered some neodymium magnets. They're going to fit on so it magnetically closes. Certainly along the bottom it's going to magnetically close. Top will still just be this latch that's up here. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of overlap of this insulated foil just coming over about 5 centimeters, about this kind of thickness. What that's going to do is it's going to help seal the airflow around the edge of the door. It'll also stop any light that's currently leaking out of the enclosure. And there's one or two other little gaps. There's one over here, which is up in the right hand corner, which is where most of the wires come in, but as you can see you can look right down into the grow box. So what I'll be needing to do is I'll patch this up as well. I want you to keep an eye on it. I have actually drilled some holes in the top for extra ventilation. I'm going to keep an eye on that because I want to have a compromise between good ventilation but also keeping the temperature. So I may block up some more of these holes and just have this fan doing most of the work. As I say, I do need to make sure I've got a good compromise between ventilation, temperature and humidity. So that's all for now for my grow box. As I say, I'll give you an update probably in a few weeks when I've done those upgrades with the new light and better insulation, sealing around the door. See what the temperature is. At the moment it's only keeping about 2 degrees above the room temperature and quite a few percentage points lower than the humidity of the room. That's just because of the heat from the lamps. But as I say, when I've got better seal, more plants, I should get high temperatures, high humidity, and hopefully better growth. And I'll definitely be getting higher temperatures when I get the larger grow lamp. I'm going to aim for probably between 25 and 30 degrees as the optimum for this box. If I can't get that with the grow lamp, the heat from the grow lamps, what I'll do is I'll get a heated mat and I'll put the heated mat on the bottom of this and just provide some heat for the plants, get some more rapid growth. So that's all for now, and I say I'll give you guys an update in a few weeks' time.